Welcometh back to the Non-Believer Bible Club. A whole lot to unpack from last week's episode. Let's get into it. Jacob exiles himself from his mother and father under the pretense of finding a wife among the daughters of his maternal uncle, Laban. But he has really left in order to avoid his brother Esau, who has promised to kill him for tricking Isaac, their blind father, into giving him Esau's blessing and rights as Isaac's heir. It gets more complicated when, after 7 years of work for the hand of his daughter Rachel, Laban tricks Jacob by swapping his older daughter Leah in instead. We have the term consummating a marriage. Well, according to the customs of the time, having sex with Leah on his wedding night, whether he realizes it or not, makes Leah his wife. The bitter irony. Isaac blessed the wrong child because he could not see. So, Jacob was also tricked by consummating a marriage in the night, when darkness covered his eyes. You could say he had it coming. But he had it coming, right? Get it? Coming. Wedding night. Okay. The cyclical karmic nature of God's justice brings to mind the assessment of Lot in Tanhuma Vayera 12, as I mentioned in episode 8. By your life, the improper act that you intended to be done to your daughters will indeed be committed, but to you. And whoever is driven by his hunger for transgression will eventually be fed from his own flesh. From his own mistakes, Jacob has been brought to this situation. He works another 7 years to marry Rachel, but to make matters worse, Leah gives birth to 4 sons, while Rachel, the only woman Jacob truly loves, remains barren. Just like his grandfather Abraham, now Jacob must prove himself before God allows him to continue his lineage through Rachel. To wrap up, let's examine the names of each of Jacob's first children and see what they say about his tragic wife, Leah. Firstborn is Reuben. Reuben translates to, behold, a son, while Rauben is etymologically similar to Ra'abeonyi, which means my misery is seen. It can't be chance that this echoes of Hagar's naming of Ishmael. God will hear, or God listens. Next, she gives birth to her second son and names him Simeon. Simeon is close to the Hebrew term Shama'on. He has heard my suffering. So, God has seen Leah. He has heard her, but although she has provided offspring, she is still unloved. She is still hated by Jacob. Leah names her thirdborn Levi, which means literally joined to. This is very close to the Hebrew verb lava, to join or to be joined to. Genesis 29:34. Now this time will my husband be joined unto me, because I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore was his name called Levi. Heartbreaking. Fourth, she gives birth to one more son and names him Judah. Yehudah. Praise, but specifically, may God be praised. Genesis 29:35. And she conceived again and bare a son, and she said, Now will I praise the Lord. Therefore she called his name Judah, and left bearing. After giving birth to 4 children, Leah has finally given up hope that Jacob will love her. She has instead commended her hopes and her life to God. Now will I praise the Lord. Therefore she called his name Judah, and left bearing. If it doesn't work after 4, what can you do? This separation, in spite of the 4 children that they now share, will define Jacob and Leah's relationship. So, with that context, joineth me as we continue with the story of Jacob and Rachel and Leah. Chapter 30. And when Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister, and said unto Jacob, Give me children, or else I die. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, Am I in God's stead? who hath withheld from thee the fruit of the womb? And she said, Behold my maid Bilhah. Go in unto her, and she shall bear upon my knees, that I may also have children by her. What? It's the remix. And she gave him Bilhah, her handmaid, to wife. And Jacob, well, he went in unto her. And Bilhah conceived, and bare Jacob a son. And Rachel said, God hath judged me, and hath also heard my voice, and hath given me a son. Therefore called she his name Dan. Well, I'm sure a Dan was bound to pop up sooner or later. And Bilhah, Rachel's maid, conceived again, and bare Jacob a second son. He's just having sons with everyone except Rachel. And Rachel said, With great wrestlings have I wrestled with my sister, and I have prevailed. And she called his name Naphtali. When Leah saw that she had left bearing, she took Zilpah, her maid, and gave her Jacob to wife. Wow. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob a son. And Leah said, A troop cometh. And she called his name Gad. Time to go online to see what that means.
Time to go online to see what that means.
Gad means luck. That was easy. I also read something about the troop bit, but apparently that will come into relevance later. Let's not spoil it. Naphtali, on the other hand, seems to refer to wrestling or fighting, so it is clear that this isn't necessarily love. This is just a war between two sisters and their handmaidens and their husband. With children, this is a mess. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob a second son. And Leah said, Happy am I, for the daughters will call me blessed. And she called his name Asher. Let's see what Asher means. The name Asher means blessing or happiness. It's interesting that Rachel is fixated on the negative. Ha! I am better. I wrestle with you. While Leah's names are, good luck, happiness. Very sad. Only going by the names, it seems that Leah is more appreciative of the good, even though Rachel has everything that she wants. And despite that fact, Rachel is more focused on what she doesn't have. Also, I just saw a video where Leah was called Leah, so now she is Leah. And Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest and found mandrakes in the field and brought them unto his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, Give me, I pray thee, of thy son's mandrakes. And she said unto her, Is it a small matter that thou hast taken my husband? And wouldest thou take away my son's mandrakes also? Nice. And Rachel said, Therefore he shall lie with thee tonight for thy son's mandrakes. And Jacob came out of the field in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him, and said, Thou must come in unto me, for surely I have hired thee with my son's mandrakes. And he lay with her that night. That was the end of it. Oh, okay. And God hearkened unto Leah, and she conceived, and bare Jacob the fifth son. And Leah said, God hath given me my hire, because I have given my maiden to my husband. And she called his name Issachar. And Leah conceived again, and bare Jacob the sixth son. I guess she's off the laying off of bearing. She called the calling off, and bare Jacob the sixth son. And Leah said, God hath endued me with a good dowry. Now will my husband dwell with me, because I have borne him 6 sons. And she called his name Zebulun. And afterwards she bare a daughter, and called her name Dinah. And God remembered Rachel, and God hearkened to her, and opened her womb, Whoa, what changed? This is going at a breakneck pace. And she conceived and bare a son, and said, God hath taken away my reproach. And she called his name Joseph, and said, The Lord shall add to me another son. And it came to pass, when Rachel had borne Joseph, that Jacob said unto Laban, Send me away, that I may go unto mine own place, and to my country. Give me my wives and my children, for whom I have served thee, and let me go. For thou knowest my service which I have done to thee. And Laban said unto him, I pray thee, if I have found favor in thy eyes, tarry. Yeah, right. For I have learned by experience that the Lord hath blessed me for thy sake. And he said, Appoint me thy wages, and I will give it. And he said unto him, Thou knowest how I have served thee, and how thy cattle was with me. For it was little which thou hadst before I came, and it is now increased unto a multitude. And the Lord hath blessed thee since my coming. And now when I shall provide for mine own house also? And he said, What shall I give thee? And Jacob said, Thou shalt not give me anything, if thou wilt do this thing for me. I will again feed and keep thy flock. I will pass through all thy flock today, removing from thence all the speckled and spotted cattle, and all the brown cattle among the sheep, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and of such shall be my hire. So shall my righteousness answer for me in time to come, when it shall come for my hire before thy face. Every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and brown among the sheep, that shall be counted stolen with me. And Laban said, Behold, I would it might be according to thy word. And he removed that day the he-goats that were ring-straked and spotted, and all the she-goats that were speckled and spotted, and every one that had some white in it, and all the brown among the sheep, and gave them into the hand of his sons. And he set 3 days' journey betwixt himself and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. Okay, again, a little bit of confusing wording. Not the wording, but it's all the pronouns. I don't know who's talking about who. So, we'll analyze what just happened. But first, let's snag up those kid name meanings that we left behind. Issachar literally means reward or recompense. So Leah thinks, oh, I have finally gotten my recompense. I've gotten my reward. She's sure that Jacob will be hers. And then the next one, Zebulun, related to the verb zabal, which means to exalt or honor, making the word zabal with the ulun suffix, meaning an instance of exaltation or glorious dwelling place. Lastly, Dinah means judged or vindicated. Funnily enough, I think that's what Dan means too. Dan with the EL suffix, Daniel. That L meaning God, or another name for God, Elohim specifically. There are a lot of names that have this. Rachel, Raphael, Gabriel, Michael, my name, which means who is like God, and Daniel, God is my judge. Oh yeah, and last we have Joseph, which etymologically has root words that almost mean the opposite of each other. One is taken away from God hath taken away my reproach, and then add, the Lord shall add to me another son. So, if you haven't noticed already, in each verse where a child is named, there is also a description explaining where the name has come from. Now we have our cast of characters all together. If they can stop having kids for a second, maybe we can slow down and figure out what's going on. Jacob has finally had a son with the wife whom he loves, whom he favors the most, and now he wants to go home. Unfortunately, he has to talk to Laban about it. Now, instead of letting him go, Laban just openly says, hey, you have made me a lot of money. Terry, he has given him no incentive to stay. He says, Appoint me thy wages, and I will give it. Clearly, he wants another 7 years from poor Jacob. And here's the thing I didn't like. Jacob says, yeah, if you give me the spotted and speckled goats and sheep, I will stay and tend to your flock again. When is this guy going to learn? But here's the part that I didn't get. Laban says, behold, I would it might be according to thy word. Then he removed that day the he-goats that were ring-straked and spotted, and all the she-goats that were speckled and spotted, and everyone so on and so on and so on. I thought he was Jacob. That was the agreement, but it's not. It's Laban. And then, that's Genesis 30:36. He set 3 days' journey betwixt himself and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. So Laban has taken all of them. Those are supposed to be Jacob's payment. And he took them and then ran away. He has no intention of paying him. And Jacob has fallen into another trap of Laban's. That guy's the worst relative. Okay, we continue. 30:37. And Jacob took him rods of green poplar and of the hazel and chestnut tree, and pilled white strakes in them, and made the white appear which was in the rods. And he set the rods which he had pilled before the flocks in the gutters, in the watering troughs, when the flocks came to drink, that they should conceive when they came to drink. And the flocks conceived before the rods, and brought forth cattle, ring-straked, speckled, and spotted. And Jacob did separate the lambs, and set the faces of the flocks toward the ring-straked, and all the brown in the flock of Laban. And he put his own flocks by themselves, and put them not unto Laban's cattle. And it came to pass, whensoever the stronger cattle did conceive, that Jacob laid the rods before the eyes of the cattle in the gutters, that they might conceive among the rods. But when the cattle were feeble, he put them not in. So the feebler were Laban's, and the stronger Jacob's. And the man increased exceedingly, and had much cattle and maidservants and men servants and camels and asses. He turned it around. What is this? What is this? What are these rods, though? Okay, there is a reason why I wasn't completely certain of what happened. Because what happened is literal magic. So these rods that he uses are specifically to cause the cattle that he has to breed with each other, and because of the rods, well, because of God, because of the magic of the rods which Jacob has cut, Laban's flock produce more of the striped, ring-straked, speckled, and spotted cattle that, of course, per the agreement, belong to Jacob. And it seems that this is actually a play on words in the original Hebrew, because when Jacob cuts the green poplar rods and shows the white strakes in them, white in Hebrew is Laban. Laban is the Hebrew word for white. So, in an ironic twist, he's using these rods whose color carries the name of the man who he's tricking to, in another twist, cause them, well, God causes them to breed more speckled, non-white cattle, thereby increasing Jacob's flock, while at the same time, he pulls this bananas eugenics experiment to make his cattle stronger and Laban's weaker. This is the most batshit. This is the craziest part of this is crazier than the incest, crazier than anything is goat eugenics. Goat eugenics to turn a profit. Now that, folks, how is it supposed to get better than that? Whew. Okay, let's go. We've had 14 years of mistakes. Turns it around in a very short amount of time. Jacob's rich. Chapter 31. And he heard the words of Laban's sons, saying, Jacob hath taken away all that was our father's. Yeah, you put him in the dirt, man. He made him irrelevant. And of that which was our father's hath he gotten all this glory. And Jacob beheld the countenance of Laban, and behold, it was not toward him as before. And the Lord said unto Jacob, Return unto the land of thy fathers and to thy kindred, now that you've obliterated Laban and all of his wealth like a G, and I will be with thee. And Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field unto his flock, and said unto them, I see your father's countenance, that it is not toward me as before. Yeah, he is a broken man. But the God of my father hath been with me. And ye know that with all my power I have served your father. Great point. And your father hath deceived me, and changed my wages 10 times, but God suffered him not to hurt me. If he said thus, The speckled shall be thy wages, then all the cattle bear speckled. And if he said thus, The ringstraked shall be thy hire, then bear all the cattle ringstraked. Thus God hath taken away the cattle of your father, and given them to me. And it came to pass at the time that the cattle conceived, that I lifted up mine eyes, and saw in a dream, and behold, the rams which leaped upon the cattle were ringstraked, speckled, and gristled. Page turning the page. These pages are so thin, yeah, super thin pages. And Jacob said unto Laban, And the angel of God spake unto me in a dream, saying, Jacob. And I said, Here am I. And he said, Lift up now thine eyes, and see, all the rams which leap upon the cattle are ringstraked, speckled, and gristled. For I have seen all that Laban doeth unto thee. I am the God of Bethel, where thou anointedest the pillar, and where thou vowest a vow unto me in the wilderness, if you remember. Now arise, get thee out from this land, and return unto the land of thy kindred. And Rachel and Leah answered and said unto him, Is there yet any portion or inheritance for us in our father's house? No, he destroyed him. Are we not counted of him strangers? For he hath sold us, and hath quite devoured also our money. Yeah. For all the riches which God hath taken from our father, that is ours, and our children's. Now then, whatsoever God hath said unto thee, do. Then Jacob rose up and set his sons and his wives upon the camels. And he carried away all his cattle, and all his goods which he had gotten, the cattle of his getting, which he had gotten in Padan Aram, for to go to Isaac his father in the land of Canaan. 14 years later, he's coming back. And Laban went to shear his sheep, and Rachel had stolen the images that were her father's. Not his images. And Jacob stole away unawares to Laban the Syrian, in that he told him not that he fled. So he fled with all that he had, and rose up and passed over the river, and set his face toward the Mount Gilead. And it was told Laban on the 3rd day that Jacob was fled. I love it. This is the cyclical nature that I was talking about before. Laban steals all the cattle that were meant to be Jacob's payment, and he puts 3 days between them. Now, on the 3rd day, Laban is informed that Jacob is gone. And he took his brethren with him, and pursued after him 7 days' journey, and they overtook him in the Mount Gilead. And God came to Laban the Syrian in a dream by night, and said unto him, Take heed, that thou speak not to Jacob, either good or bad. Then Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mount, and Laban with his brethren pitched in the Mount of Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, What hast thou done, that thou hast stolen away unawares to me, and carried away my daughters as captives, taken with the sword? He's married to a man. That is a gross overstatement. Wherefore didst thou flee away secretly, and steal away from me, and didst not tell me that I might have sent thee away with mirth? Yeah, right. And with songs, with tabret and with harp. Laban, you piece of shit. and hast not suffered me to kiss my sons and my daughters. Thou hast now done foolishly in so doing. It is in the power of my hand to do you hurt. But the God of your fathers spake unto me yesternight, saying, Take thou heed that thou speak not to Jacob either good or bad. He's speaking to him. And now, though thou wouldest needs be gone, because thou sore longedst after thy father's house, yet wherefore hast thou stolen my gods? And Jacob answered and said to Laban, Because I was afraid, for I said, Peradventure thou wouldest take by force thy daughters from me, keeping the lady safe. With whomsoever thou findest thy gods, let him not live. Before our brethren discern thou what is thine with me, and take it to thee. For Jacob knew not that Rachel had stolen them. Whoops. And Laban went into Jacob's tent, and into Leah's tent, and into the two maidservants' tent, but he found them not. Then he went out of Leah's tent, and entered into Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the images, and put them in the camel's furniture, and sat upon them. And Laban searched all the tent, but found them not. And she said to her father, Let it not displease my lord that I cannot rise up before thee, for the custom of women is upon me. And he searched, but found not the images. And Jacob was wroth, and chode with Laban. And Jacob answered and said to Laban, What is my trespass? What is my sin, that thou hast so hotly pursued after me? Whereas thou hast searched all my stuff. What hast thou found of all thy household stuff? Set it here before my brethren and thy brethren, that they may judge betwixt us both. This 20 years have I been with thee. Thy ewes and thy she-goats have not cast their young, and the rams of thy flock have I not eaten. That which was torn of beasts I brought not unto thee. I bear the loss of it. Of my hand didst thou require it, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. Thus I was. In the day the drought consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sleep departed from mine eyes. Thus have I been 20 years in thy house. I served thee 14 years for thy 2 daughters, and 6 years for thy cattle. Oh, it took them 6 years to do all that breeding, huh? That makes sense. And thou hast changed my wages 10 times. Except the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac, had been with me, surely thou hadst sent me away now empty. God hath seen my affliction, and the labor of my hands, and rebuked thee yesternight. And Laban answered and said unto Jacob, These daughters are my daughters, and these children are my children, and these cattle are my cattle, and all that thou seest is mine. And what can I do this day unto these my daughters, or unto their children which they have borne? Now therefore come thou, let us make a covenant, I and thou, and let it be for a witness between me and thee. Yeah, he's saving face for sure. Now therefore come thou, let us make a covenant, I and thou, and let it be for a witness between me and thee. And Jacob took a stone and set it up for a pillar. And Jacob said unto his brethren, Gather stones. And they took stones, and made an heap. And they did eat there upon the heap. And Laban called it, get ready for this, Jegar Sahadutha. But Jacob called it Gilead. And Laban said, This heap is a witness between me and thee this day. Therefore was the name of it called Gilead. And Mitzpah, for he said, The Lord watch between me and thee, and we are absent one from another. If thou shalt afflict my daughters, or if thou shalt take other wives beside my daughters, no man is with us. See, God is witness betwixt me and thee. And Laban said to Jacob, Behold this heap, and behold this pillar, which I have cast betwixt me and thee. This heap be witness, and this pillar be witness, that I will not pass over this heap to thee, and that thou shalt not pass over this heap, and this pillar, unto me for harm. The God of Abraham, and the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge betwixt us. And Jacob sware by the fear of his father Isaac. Then Jacob offered sacrifice upon the mount, and called his brethren to eat bread, and they did eat bread, and tarried all night in the mount. And early in the morning Laban rose up, and kissed his sons and his daughters, and blessed them. And Laban departed, and returned unto his place. And so, we end our reading for today. Excellent. What excitement. That was a decent chunk of reading. I really liked that. I like how that ending continues there always seems to be like a reconciliation or some kind of familial love ending, like when Sarah died, and then we have the nice kind of uplifting ending. Isaac takes Rebecca into his tent, and he's consoled over the loss of his mother. We had this, but from the unexpected place of Laban pulls a Joe Pesci at the end of Lethal Weapon 4 out of nowhere. And he has this tender moment with all his children. Because obviously, he's just been lying through his teeth the whole time. He's a jerk. But he says, hey, I didn't get to send you off with songs and all this great stuff that would have happened if only I would have had my way and you wouldn't have had any money. But he does say, I would have liked to kiss my kids. And out of everything that he was talking, that ended up being the one true thing. That's kind of sweet. That was a good moment. Another thing to unpack. I guess I can do some more research later, but for now it seems interesting. The story of the time Rachel sat on something and, and Laban never figured it out. Oh! I cannot believe I missed this. It says, okay, Genesis chapter 31, verse 35. And she said to her father, let it not displease my lord that I cannot rise up from before thee, for the custom of women is upon me. She's like, oh, I can't move because I'm on my period. That's it. She lied to him about her period. Laban foiled. Wow. This book is really something else. Well, yeah, that explains it. He was like, oh, okay, I'm out of here. Jeez. So it says she takes his images. It's his gods. It's images of his gods, his household gods. Actually, in this pre-Israel Canaanite area at the time, household gods were a common thing. Polytheism was the rule, the norm. This is who Laban worships. That is not the God of Abraham. So, with Jacob's influence, and with the influence he's had on Laban's daughters, the gods of old are hidden from him, and he is now subject to a new rule, a new God, the one true God. Finally, Jacob has come full Abraham. He's gone out. He's had some adventures. He's almost fought in a war, if you count Laban, but he stood his ground as a man, and now he gets to go home. I'm really excited to see what happens next time, but until then, thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. Please take care, and remember, if you're ever in a tight spot, take some reeds, cut them and show the whites of them, and stick them in the watering hole where your cattle have sex with each other. Okay, I'll see you next time.